You're now listening to the 1130 podcast. Enjoy the show.
Yo, what it do, everybody? It's your man Dre, aka Dre on Wheels. Y'all already know what it is. Welcome back, everyone, to the 1130 podcast. What's goody, everybody doing out there? I'm back at it. It's Wednesday. You know what time it is. It's not 7:30. It's 11:30. It's time for the podcast. Good morning to everyone who's listening to me on EB Radio this morning, and for those who are tuned back in, for watching on YouTube, appreciate it so much. If you're new to the 1130 podcast, and if you haven't done so already, you know I love new people joining in each and every week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, like, leave a comment, and do all that great stuff. And don't forget to follow the 1130 podcast on all social media platforms. But you guys, like I said, man, it's Wednesday. It's time for the podcast. I got an amazing guest, you guys. When I say amazing, an amazing guest that's going to be joining me here on the 1130 podcast this week, continuing celebrating Black excellence here in this Black History Month of February here on the 1130 podcast. And my guy, Dr. K, he's an entrepreneur. He's a CEO of Educational Consulting. He's going to be joining me here to talk about everything, overcoming, poverty, being homeless, and just everything, man. For real, it's going to be a great show. Before we get into the show, shout out my guest who was on last week, Deanna Williams. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Speaking of the show, we ain't gonna waste no more time. We're gonna get into it. Dr. K, how's it going?
Hey, what's happening, man? It's going pretty good. How about this weather we're having, man? But you know what? We're here. We're living, man. It's going great.
Yeah, man. We here. I'm living. You living, man. It's going wonderful. Thank you for taking the invite, joining me here on the 1130 podcast. I was networking, like I was telling a couple of guests. Like I said, this month celebrating Black excellence. Thought I'd reach out to young entrepreneurs, or just, entrepreneurs in general, Black entrepreneurs who got a lot of things going for themselves, and, just have an amazing story to join me here on the podcast to shine light on them. So I thank you for taking that invite. How's life treating you right now?
Man, life is treating me pretty well, man. Aside from a slip injury I had the other day, man, things have been going great, man. In education, as a teacher and professor, man, with my business, nonprofit, things are all going well, man. Able to look out and help out a lot of people, all over the world.
Hey, that's what's up. We need more people like you, man, to help others all around the world, man. For real, definitely. But once again, like I said, this is celebrating Black excellence here on the podcast. Thought I'd bring you on to shine light on your story because, you were one who was real adamant about, man, I would love to be on the podcast, and I love people who would love to come on. So, but yeah, man, for my listeners and viewers, who's not familiar with you, tell them something about you.
Well, man, I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, man, so I got to represent that everywhere I go.
Okay.
I live in Southern California now and have been for some time, man. But, again, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, man, and like many people, going through, coming up in Detroit, it was rough, just like anywhere else across, America and the world where there's poverty and impoverishment. A lack of resources, it can be tough, man. And so that's where I was born and raised. And I came to South Central Los Angeles in the mid 80s. And I kind of say was continued to be raised there, man. Shout out to Crenshaw High School, my alma mater. Shout out to Cooley High School in Detroit, my first one, man. And from there, man, life took its turns, man. It was taking its turns, even in Detroit and South Central. Today, as I said, I'm an educator, man, high school teacher, university professor. I own a couple of businesses that I operate, one being a television outlet on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. I give back to the community always, man, but recently last year started a nonprofit. It's funny, man, because I've been doing, type of philanthropic activities all my life and just decided to launch the nonprofit last year. The nonprofit is called SCORE, which stands for Securing Communities of Racial Equity. have my podcast also, Let's Chew the Gum, that I do weekly, man. So I'm all about interacting with folks, man, and just trying to be the best version that I can be, to either set an example for others, man, or just, bring others on board so, we can do our part to shine some light in this dark world.
Hey man, I dig that. I really do dig that. Hey, you got to be the best version of yourself, and you came a long way with your business and everything you got going on because it wasn't, as always, good right now as it, was back in the days. Am I right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Back in the day, man, I come through a generation with the crack epidemic, man, that hit all across America, but hit inner cities, targeted, I should say, inner cities, initially, and then it kind of spread everywhere, man. So that was life changing, man. And then to experience homelessness as a teenager once I moved to South Central LA, avoiding the gangs and drugs and navigating that whole situation, but always being true to myself, man, and understanding where I come from. So there was a lot to navigate, man, to
Yeah.
get to this point. So it hasn't always been good for sure, but it's
Mhm.
always been blessed because I'm
Yes.
here.
Yes. Yes. Always been blessed. What got you to move from South Central Detroit all the way to LA?
Well, what got me to move from Detroit, man, is my mother pretty much, man. She was
Okay.
she was ready to get up out of Detroit, and at this time, about mid 80s, it had gotten really bad, man. Factories had already been shutting down for years, so the city was taking a turn for the worse in terms of economic opportunities, which led to a lot of opportunistic individuals, and crack epidemic, man, that hit. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people today, make jokes about crack and whatnot, and some people don't even understand the ramifications of what it was and what happened to our cities and to the people in
Hmm.
our cities when it hit. But
Hmm.
man, it was talk about an epidemic. Man, it was bad, man. It's almost like overnight things changed in terms of because of addictions and because of the money behind it, because of the you can see all types of documentaries about whether it's government led, government influenced, government supported, or whatever. But man, it tore families apart. It tore communities apart. And so she
Hmm.
was, trying to do her best to save, not only us, my younger sister and I, but also her to get out of that realm. So, we moved to South Central Los Angeles, of all places, right? Which was just as bad in terms of how crack had hit, and the turmoil, and just the ills of inner city life.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And man, the crack academic, man, when it came through, it wiped a lot of families, tore a lot of families apart, especially in the black community. Though, how did you handle that?
Man, that was rough, man, because I'm family oriented. I grew up family oriented, large family. Us outside of my brothers and sisters, which there were seven of us, man, but lots of cousins, aunts, and uncles, man. So we were always family oriented in terms of whether it was going to church or just visiting one another, and just even in the communities, man. Everybody had, seemed to be family oriented where I was from. Obviously there were some people going through different situations, but it was always like sliding a family stone, man. It was a family affair. So, with this crack, epidemic, and all that it brought with it, man, it was devastating, man. I remember, being sad quite a bit of just looking at the devastation and breakdown of families. And you hear people talk about it today, how, to this day, we don't do the things we used to for everybody, whether that was, weekend card parties or picnics every weekend, everybody coming over, getting together for dinner at grandma's house, whatever it may be. All of those things kind of, started to dwindle away, when crack hit, probably because people were, cracked out, for lack of a better term, man, or just
Hmm.
embarrassed to come around, or, it was just different, man. It just, the psychological, impact that it had on communities was devastating. And it definitely didn't miss my family, man. So that was a lot to deal with.
Yeah, definitely a lot to deal with, man. I hear definitely stories like you just mentioned about documentaries about the crack epidemic and just how it tore so many cities apart, and how my mom always told me just whatever you do, just don't get on drugs, and just how stories about how it was, whether it was here in DC or down in the South, in the 80s and the 90s, of how it really was, man. Wasn't easy. Really wasn't easy though. But you wound up moving to South Central LA though, and
Yeah.
you wound up being homeless after that. What happened?
Well, man, we moved to South Central. I had an aunt, rest in peace to my Aunt Veda. I had an aunt that lived there. My mom's one of her favorite sisters, I would say. She had three or four sisters. But we moved there with her. And about a year or so after we got there, she passed away. And the owner of the house, I was 15 when we moved there, so I don't know all the business behind it. But the owner of the house, I imagine she was renting the house. I don't know, but she wanted to do something else with the property, and we couldn't stay. My mom and my sister were going to move in with another aunt who already was housing quite a few of my cousins, in her house. So there was really no room for me. I'm a pretty big kid at the time. I'm, big kid, ate a lot, took up a lot of space, but there just wasn't room for me, man. So I had to make arrangements to find, different living arrangements for me. My mom sort of sat down and talked with me and asked, let me know what the situation was. Asked me if I could find a place to stay with a friend, temporarily. And I did temporarily for a couple of months, maybe a month and a half, if that. And then after that, I was on my own, man, just, going from place to place, from bus to this person's house if I could, just out there, living life, man, and trying to make my way through the madness and the noise, again, whether it's the pressures of gangs or drugs themselves or the pressure for me to even sell drugs, which, at one point I broke down and tried to, man, because I was so poor, man, trying to, I was living in motels and, trying to hustle money for each night and, eating out of coolers with, my lunch meat and cheese sandwiches and my cheese all wet and soggy from the ice melting. It was a lot to maintain, for a teenager, and the pressure, man, you look around and see people with all types of money and whatnot, and you know where it's coming from. But at the same time, when you're young like that and impressionable, you want more and you're working hard, so there's a lot of pressure involved.
I couldn't imagine. I tell you right now, man, I could not imagine. You say you were 15 years old, a young man, you're going through puberty and you're homeless at the time. How did you cope with all that?
And just to set it straight, when I went homeless, I was actually 16 going on 17, somewhere around then, because it had been a year since we went there. Okay. Man, I for me, when I look at it, going through it, it's like I took it in stride. I was always kind of raised with, in a strong family with support and understanding that, it's not always going to be what you want, and you got to make out of it what you can. It wasn't definitely something I was looking forward to or anything I could have ever imagined. But what can I do but continue? For me, is to, take the next step, each step. As long as I'm breathing, I'm in the game. I have an opportunity. So, each step was all I knew how to do. I didn't know what else to do but to survive, whether it's surviving for me. But, thankfully I had a strong foundation of family structure, man, where there were people, even when they weren't with me, just the thought of them and the strength and the things they went through encouraged me to, to continue on each day, as hard as it was. And it was hard, man, for sure.
Yeah, man, I couldn't, like I said, I cannot imagine, man, and the stuff that you've been through. So you persevered through a lot, man. What keeps you inspired?
You know what, man, but always, even at that time, I was inspired by family, man. I was inspired by my grandmother. I was inspired, at one point I was going to drop out of high school, man. I was, all those days of struggling and living in the streets and whatnot, and just the pressures. It did get to me at one point, and I did actually stop caring, I think, because I was going to drop out of high school. I thought, man, you know what? I need to work, so I got to eat. I had been working. I worked in a nightclub when I was 17, and to me, that's unfortunate because you had to be 25 to even get in this club. So I'm 17 around all these grown folks and grown business. And, so I didn't have that typical childhood type situation.
With everything going on, with everything going on, it forced you to grow up fast.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, even leaving Detroit at 15, I was forced to grow up because I'm going 3,000 miles away to this new place, and I got a younger sister and a mom. So I instantly, grew up. I think I was already, kind of mature, but now I'm, I have to be. Before I was maybe trying to be mature to, be around older folks, older girls. I don't know, but now I had to be mature, man. So definitely, you're on the streets, and people would test you and try you, man, if they think you're vulnerable. So I had to do what I call roll with force, this force field around me of because I wasn't here for games and jokes and to this day, I have a motto, and I don't think I'm all that or better than anybody for sure. But my thing is, I got to go home. I need to go home every day. Even when I was homeless, there was some place I felt I had to be, and
Mm.
any obstacle that was happening in my life was something that had to be out of the way. It's either you sink or swim, man. And I had so many people, as I said, that inspired me growing up that I wanted to keep swimming for them. Even when I was going to drop out of high school, I eventually came to the point where I said, I'm going to do it for my mother because I want her to have, this at least one of her children graduate from high school. All my brothers and sisters have had success in different arenas, but at the time, none of them had graduated high school. So I was sixth in line. And so that was my motivation, man. That's what got me up and kept me going when I didn't want to go, when I was hungry and tired and just fed up. Because, you got to understand, outside of school, I'm living this very adult life with my own decisions, making my own choices at every step of the way. And then you go to school and it's, you're treated differently. So I really wasn't feeling the sort of babysitting type environment of schools where someone's telling you what to do at every minute. And not that I have a problem with authority, but I didn't need that. That wasn't something I needed. And I don't think everybody was doing a good job of recognizing who was in front of them in the classroom to decide what this person needs. It was sometimes, and no disrespect to any of the teachers, I had great teachers, man, some inspiring teachers, but not everybody had that inclination to know we need to do something different for this kid or for that kid. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, the family kept me inspired, and just the need to succeed. I didn't want failure. You know what I mean? I didn't want
Yes.
people to be able to say anything bad about, my family's name. That was important to me. So that inspired me, man.
Man, I like that. That's real touching, man. Even though you said you were homeless, your motto was, "Man, I gotta go back home." Man, like that's some inspiring stuff. I can definitely dig that. I was definitely doing my homework on you, man, and you just mentioned classroom and being in school, and you talked about how your senior year and you were just going to school and you were just falling asleep, and just how it just wasn't for you.
Right.
Hmm. Did,
Yeah, man. I was falling asleep because, like I said, I worked at a club. I was going to football practice, man, from, every day. So I go to school 8 o'clock to 3, football practice 3:30 to 5:30, work from 6 to, it's supposed to be 2 in the morning when the club closes. But, my job was a bar back, so I'm having to clean up the club. So I don't get out of work sometimes till 3:30, maybe 4, and then I'm back at school at 8 o'clock. And so this cycle is going on. And that's a lot for anybody. I don't care how old you are, but to be 17, keeping up that schedule and all the pressures of life. So I was definitely falling asleep, man, in class, and not because I didn't care. The evidence that I cared was the fact that I was still there, man, despite all of that. But,
hmm
this particular teachers and whatnot, they didn't see it as that. They labeled me, man, that, I was a lazy, inner city black kid who didn't care, but no one took time to ask, what's going on? What's going on? Why are you falling asleep? They just said I didn't care. Which, at that time, I felt that was a shame even then. Like, damn, you don't even ask me, you just assume. So that inspired me even further, man. I think later in life to, you know, not listen to the outside noise and not to succumb to what people thought about you or what they said about you, man. So that was definitely something that I carried over into my life, even currently, to jump forward quite a bit because of that experience with my nonprofit SCORE. I have a scholarship that I offer to students, and it's for struggling students, you know. And I say struggling, I mean, you got to have a 1.5 GPA or lower to even qualify for this scholarship, man, because it's for struggling students. And so from my experience, I know that there are a lot of people that struggle, students that struggle academically, but it has nothing to do with what they're capable of or what they might want to produce. A lot of
hmm
times they're in situations where they aren't able to produce academically or they're going through things like I was. But it's not right for us to just throw them to the side and cast them aside, because those are students that are, can be valuable contributors to society. So my thing was, you know what? I recognize you. I see you. Not only that, I've experienced it. So let's offer something for you, an incentive for you. Because in my situation, man, if I would have had a few $100s in my pocket at that time when I was struggling, I might not have had to go to work at those hours. I could have done some different things. Maybe that was going to help me to get a motel room for a week where I didn't have to travel so far or whatever it may be. So with this scholarship, man, like I said, you got to have a 1.5 to get it. you answer the prompt. There's multiple ways that you can, enter, not just writing an essay, because everybody's not, a writer, but you can do a podcast episode like we're doing right now. You can do an original poem, original song, original short film. You can do a community action plan where you go out into the community. And this year's prompt is, how can teaching or learning about Black history be beneficial for everyone? So you do that. If you win, you get half the money right up front after the contest is over, or the period is over. And then you get the other half at the end of the school year if you have no more Fs. So the idea there is to let you, remind you that you can do it, let you show some evidence that you did do it. And now that you did do it, here's some more money. And hopefully you'll be inspired to say, you know what, I got this. Let me go on through high school and finish. It's no guarantee with finishing high school, but it's definitely a key to the next level.
Definitely right about that, my guy. You're definitely right about that. I love that. I love that. But you guys, we're going to move on here on the 1130 podcast. You have your awesome business, your CEO of Educational Consulting. I'm telling my listeners about it.
All right, so check it out, man. Let me clarify the business. Advanced Educational Consulting. That's something that I've done for quite a few years, man. I consult with educators across the country on issues related to student engagement, student behavior, interventions, academic planning, or what have you. Whether it's public school, private school, it doesn't matter what age, So that's something I've done for years. I think since 1990. Right now, my well, I don't want to say right now. In addition to that, my other business, On Watch TV, is a television outlet that I have on Roku and Amazon. And so it's a full service production company where we, not only provide opportunities for individuals to be on TV that may otherwise have not been on TV. Maybe they don't want to deal with the Hollywood types and whatnot. Maybe they can't afford to be on traditional networks. So I provide opportunities for that. So on the channel, you'll find people with their first film. You'll find some experienced people that have been in the industry. And then you'll find some things that we produce. So we have some short-term projects that we're working on, some long-term projects. So On Watch TV has been near and dear, and it's expanding, man, further. So I'm always inviting folks to check out the channel or email me about it if they want to be on the channel. So that's near and dear. As I said, the SCORE nonprofit is also one that I operate. So I'm always looking for people, man. Again, it's about helping and giving back. I feel like I've been given so much, whether it's been just through blessings or through hard work, man. And I understand what it's like out there. So I always want to just make opportunities. So it seems like everything I do is about service, whether it's educational services, consulting, the television channel, the podcast, or the nonprofit. It's all about giving back.
Yeah, man, I dig it. You got to definitely give back, especially, with the Black community. I know it wasn't that many opportunities for myself growing up. Definitely for people who have disabilities, with like myself, because I had to just create opportunities within myself. And like you said, you gotta be there to be a helping hand. But you guys, man, we're going to move on here on the 1130 podcast. It's time, you guys, man, for the WTF moment of the week, you guys. Yes, WTF moment of the week. All right, Doctor. Each and every week here on the podcast, I share my WTF moment. Whether that may be something you've seen, heard, or saw, or whatever. But you want to go first? You have a WTF moment you would like to share?
Oh man! So Dr. K here. Here's my WTF moment. Can I share two? Because I got two.
Sure.
The first one involves me, man. The other day I'm going to work and I slip and that was WTF, man. I slipped, and not only slip, I didn't fall, thankfully, but then I took a few steps, realized I hurt myself, and I think in my mind that was like WTF, like what's going on? I wasn't ready for that, man. Got a lot going on. My next WTF moment. Somebody shared a video with me, man. It's with my guy, Matt Stafford, quarterback of the LA Rams. But, for 12 years, he was with my team, the Detroit Lions, man. It's all Detroit for me. All Detroit all the time. Lions, Tigers, no Bears. Oh, my. But Yeah, I saw a video of Matt Stafford, man, chasing down some defenders because I guess they put a hard hit on his receiver Cooper Kupp in the end zone, and Matt
Hmm.
Stafford, I think the Detroit came out in him, so he chased the guy down. It's like, I think he probably said WTF to the guy, like, don't be hitting my guy like that. And it's not usual to see a quarterback going after defenders, and he ran about a good 15 to 20 yards to get there. So those are my two WTFs, man.
Hey, I dig it, Matt Stafford, man. Now he's in LA. Would you excited for LA when they won the Super Bowl?
Hey man, I was excited for Matt Stafford. I'm gonna tell you that when he
Okay,
first went
okay.
there, when he first was traded, I said, okay, I like all teams, but I only love the Lions, right? So when he went to LA, I became a Rams supporter for sure because that's my guy, And so I watched, I've seen every Detroit game for years, but I watched more
Oh man.
LA teams, LA
Uh-huh.
games. I went to the game when Detroit played in LA, and so for me with the Super Bowl, I didn't really mind who won. I wanted it for Stafford, but my thing
Mhm.
was, hey, I want him to have a great game, and if they do lose, make sure it's not his fault, right? He have the best game ever. If they lose, as long as it's not his fault. But he showed up and showed out, man. So I was definitely happy for him. A win for Stafford to me was a win for Detroit. And I know not everybody in Detroit feels that way. Some people are, kind of moved on, but that's all right. Fair weather fans, we don't need him. That's our guy. He went to battle for us for 12 years. So I'm loyal
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, man. He finally got a ring, so I'm happy for him. I'm really happy for him.
No
But just
doubt.
besides this, despite the crazy news that came out last week, where he was at the parade and the reporter who had the camera, she fell and whatnot, and his own reaction. I think that was the big conversation about it, his reaction when she fell off the cliff. Like, oop, like, and like I said, I understand, everybody saying he was drinking, he was drunk, whatever the case was be, but I was like, ooh, man, like his reaction showed, like, okay, man, like I don't want nothing to do with this. I just want a Super Bowl. Like, I don't want nothing to do with it. But hey, hey,
I saw that. I didn't hear the news about it, but the other night somewhere, I saw a video with the reporter falling. I didn't hear the audio, and I saw him just kind of walk away. And I thought, oh.
hmm
And at the same time, what is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to jump down? I mean, that's the natural reaction. Jump down, help out, right? But
yeah,
suppose he jumps down, then he's hurt. He falls on her. Now you got lawsuits. And the other thing, when you watch NFL games, I think this. A lot of players, when you see players get hurt, you'll see players run over to an injured player to help them. But oftentimes, I think they've been trained so much to walk away and let the professionals handle it. It's like when somebody falls and gets hurt, you got to make a decision. You might move them. They sustain an additional injury. Now you're liable, right? Versus, okay, don't move the person. Let's wait for the professionals to come in, let them handle it, right? So,
mm,
I don't know what he was supposed to do. I didn't see the whole thing. I don't know how far down she fell. If he could jump down there, is it a dangerous situation for him? But and I haven't heard, anything about it until now. So I hope she's okay, man. But like I said, you got to make decisions. You got to,
yeah,
and in situations like that, what is he
yeah.
supposed to do?
Exactly, exactly. That's what I said. What he was supposed to do, I don't know. Look here, I really don't know. But look here. Congratulations to Matt Stanford and the LA Rams for winning the Super Bowl, and Matt Stanford, on that. But you guys, my WTF moment is pretty strange, you guys. I'm also Dr. Campbell, be a soon to be dad. So I think once I
Oh,
heard this.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Once I heard this story, I was like, "Oh man, this WTF moment all the way." Because me and my fiance was definitely talking about, we have a bunch of conversations about, oh man, when our son get older and this and that and all this and all this. But WTF, it was a woman in Florida who went to go pick up her daughter from daycare, and when you leave as a parent, go to work, you drop your kids off at daycare, you leave all trust to these adults, these individuals to take care of your child until it's time for them to come pick them back up. Well, in Florida at this daycare, the mom got off and went to go pick up her daughter. But when she went to go pick up her daughter, the daycare was closed. The daycare was closed, but her daughter was inside of the daycare.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mother
yeah.
arriving to pick up her 2-year-old toddler, only to find her locked inside and left in the dark at the daycare center. Police and fire were called in to free that child.
And tonight, that parent is demanding answers as to how this happened in the first place. Local 10's Terrell Fournier is live in Plantation with the terrifying tale. Terrell.
And this is something that even the folks who run this daycare center say should have never happened. But because of it, a couple of staff members have been placed on administrative leave amid several investigations.
I'm coming, okay?
With her voice quivering and worry heavy on her mind, Stephanie Martinez tried her best to keep her 2-year-old daughter calm.
Helpless. I couldn't get to her. I was freaking out. It's like the worst feeling ever. Like, you can't do anything.
Little Anastasia was alone, trapped inside of her daycare, somehow left behind by staff members.
No one was there. Everything was shut down.
The panic began when Stephanie showed up to KinderCare just after 6 Tuesday evening for the pickup, just as either she or the girl's aunt normally do.
And I started knocking. I banged on every window. I couldn't see anything. Everything was dark.
She's like, well, I'm at the school and nobody's here. And I'm like, well, I don't have her. Like, call the police.
And then finally I heard her, and she popped up on the little window, the little door. And that's when I lost it.
Police and fire rescue had to force their way inside to get to the girl, who is now fearful of the dark. In a statement, a spokesperson for KinderCare says in part, while we're thankful the child was quickly found and was safe, this incident should not have happened. We take all concerns about children's safety seriously. It goes on to say, we'll also take immediate steps to ensure this kind of thing doesn't happen again. All of our teachers and staff will be retrained on proper child supervision.
I just want them to be held accountable. I don't want this to ever happen to anybody else. It's the worst feeling ever.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Now, if Matt Stafford did something like that, that'd be a different story, right? So that should be bigger news than Matt Stafford. That should be an alarm for everybody across the country. We're talking about little kids, unsupervised, closed in the daycare. I guess they wanted to go home, man. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to go home. It must have been Friday, but it don't matter what day it was. You don't leave the little kids in there, you know?
No.
That's
Never.
Crazy. Never. WTF all the way, you guys. WTF all the way. Hey, but you guys, man, this has been an awesome show here on the 1130 podcast. I have my guy, Dr. K, joining me here, chopping it up, having some fun on the podcast. But you guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we got the hot seat. We're going to finish chatting with my man, Dr. K, and more. For real, don't go nowhere. You're listening and you're watching to the 1130 podcast, you dig?
Yo, what up? This your boy Kenneth Stones, aka Coffee Weaston. This your boy D.O.E. Good Brother Bowl. And we are the Dirty Hills. You already know, man, you tuning in to 1130 podcast. Not 7:30, but 11:30.
Dude, that's my job. Not 7:30, but 11:30.
Yeah. And you have been Dirty Hills approved.
TV is a reinvented way to watch TV. No wires, no boxes, and unlimited DVR.
Wait, unlimited DVR?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm worried what that much power might do to me.
Okay. YouTube TV has real-time highlights to catch up on the game if you miss anything.
I actually like missing things. My team's awful.
Well, it also has personalized recommendations, so no more scrolling endlessly.
But scrolling endlessly lets me reject things.
Yeah, but...
Reject.
You don't need to sign an annual contract to watch YouTube TV.
What's wrong with signing contracts? I love signing contracts.
No, it's just...
Contracts are the best.
Okay.
Signing an annual contract almost makes me feel like I'm a professional athlete.
Oh boy. You can watch YouTube TV on any device.
TV is for TVs. TV on a phone is just unnatural.
No, don't do that. Don't.
It was unforgivable what you said about contracts.
Sorry.
What you did? Leave blame my phone.
You made him blend his phone.
Look, it's only $65 a month.
But my whole identity is built on overpaying for things.
Why do you want to take away his identity?
I don't.
Hey, I like overpaying for things.
Can we get another round?
All right, that's enough. Look, you should try YouTube TV for free. It's everything live TV should be.
That was funny.
Yo, we back here on the 1130 podcast. Appreciate everyone sticking with me throughout the short break. I have my guy Dr. K here, entrepreneur, professor, CEO of his own business, having fun here on the podcast. Before we went to the break, we were chatting a little bit of football with Matt Stafford. Some headlines came out from this past week. Former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Brian Flores, who's, we are all heard the news all around the NFL of him suing the NFL, but he's just been hired as assistant coach to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you think this is sort of a reaction from the NFL of him suing the NFL for racial discrimination, and now he's the assistant head coach now of the, obviously he's not the head coach yet, but he's the assistant head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Man, that's interesting. First of all, man, I always like to believe in the goodness of people, man, and when it comes to that. But the fact that, I have been passed over for promotions throughout my career because of race, because I've known avowed racists to be in charge of situations where I didn't get a promotion. And I've seen and heard, I've experienced that. I can only, empathize with what Flores went through. Was it racism? Could be. What I know is that there are laws, man, and equity. We got the Rooney Rule. What's interesting is that Rooney was the president of the Pittsburgh Steelers, where that rule was instituted, that you must interview candidates, minority candidates, before making these decisions to get a chance. Man, we have a league that's predominantly African American, yet leadership positions don't show that equity in that way. So the fact that he went to Pittsburgh, to be an assistant coach under Mike Tomlin, who was also African American, with the organization responsible for the Rooney Rule. I don't know, man. Is that a placation? Are they placating the situation, trying to smooth it over? I still, hey, it's still a job, and what I say, it's an opportunity. So I'd rather him, be in that situation, than without. Does that end the discussion? I hope not, man. I hope not. And at the same time, man, there's 32 teams. There's a lot of qualified people, to coach, and a lot of them are white guys, man. And so I love to think that we can live in a world where we don't have to focus on race, but that's just the reality. It is the reality. So do we have to have 70% black coaches in the NFL? That I don't like that either. But what I think is there's a lot of qualified individuals that do get passed up and have been passed up time and time again. But again, it's 32 teams. That's not really a lot of space. But there are other places. And so assistant head coach, so maybe we need to look at, what are some other positions and opportunities for leadership within the NFL? It's tough, man. It's a tough call in this situation.
Yeah, definitely tough call, man. Because I was definitely, when I was talking about this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago when I had Dr. Solomon Tension on, shout him out, and we was definitely chatting about, having African American men or just African Americans in the NFL or just in sports, and how they don't get to reach the higher position in that profession because of race play a whole factor in it. So I definitely understand what you're talking about. You're talking about race, as we on racial and race. How was it for you, and how different is it now than it was back in the days?
Oh man, in a lot of ways it's still the same, but in some ways, so it's the same and different, man. Even growing up, I was on a show last week or so talking about being bused to white neighborhoods as a kid in third grade, man, and having people call out, the N-word to me and Ku Klux Klan and Nazi salutes and all this type of stuff as an 8-year-old kid in Detroit, and I joked and thought I said it wasn't a joke. I thought they were throwing a parade for us. I thought they were welcoming us to the neighborhood, but they were protesting against us specifically as black people. Growing up in South Central Los Angeles and Detroit, in those areas that were predominantly black, I didn't experience racism so much because that's what was around me, were other black people. But in the profession I'm in education, man, in leadership positions, I've definitely experienced racism in terms of, like I said, not being hired. Having people, I have 5 college degrees, man, including a doctorate, and then I see someone hired for a position that I'm going for that not only do they not have the degrees, but they don't have the requisite, credentials to get the position, but they are allowed to train. We'll bring you in and train you, let you go through the process to get those credentials, and more than once, man. So I don't know if the people that did that are just stupid, and I don't know if that's the best word to use, but when you are so blatant you're pretty comfortable, man. So there's people in positions, I think, that make people feel comfortable and okay to engage in racism, because it's like, if your whole clique, the whole town, the whole crew is involved in it, who are they going to tell? Who you going to call? It's nobody to report to if the person at the top is just as entrenched in the racist process as the people that are perpetrating it, man. So and at the same time, like I said, it's changing. There's more opportunities. We get more people who are progressive minded and understand the focus on the content of a person's character versus their color, and they make equitable decisions. So we just need to continue to strive, man, understanding that it's not over, and as we, continue that fight, we, those folks got to go on, man. So we need to call it out when we see it. Because it's despicable, man. It's deplorable. It has no place in our society,
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right about that, man. I always, ask the question, to my black brothers and sisters, because what was going on in the country right now is no different to what went on 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's just a cycle repeating itself, and I feel like we all have an opportunity to change and also do better and educate ourselves, not just on, the black race, just on everybody in general. Period. So I definitely understand what you're saying, my guy. Definitely. But you guys, man, we're going to move on here on the 1130 podcast. It's time for the 1130 podcast hot seat. All right. Dr. K, I got 6 questions for you here in the hot seat, and we're going to roll with it. You ready?
I'm ready,
All
man.
All right. Number 1, who is your hero?
Oh, man, my hero has to be my mother, man. I know that sounds cliche, man, but just thinking of all the things she's been through in life, and to survive and to get through, and then suffering from, COVID and almost not making it through. She's always inspiring, always positive. And she's a fighter, man. That's definitely my hero.
Okay. Like that answer, man. Definitely like that answer. What is your greatest risk you have ever taken?
The greatest risk I've ever taken. Oh my goodness, man. Oh, that's a good one. The greatest risk I've ever taken was probably investing in myself, man. When you're an entrepreneur and you invest your own money, you don't always know if it's going to turn out. I have other responsibilities, families, and future. But betting on myself, and I say it's the greatest risk, but also I did it with faith, and I had no doubt that things will work out. So that's a great risk, but with all faith.
Yes, faith is the main thing, man. Like, is up there. That's what you gotta have, man. It's faith is it's the things that you cannot see. So you have to hold on to that. And belief also, man, because when you have something like a podcast or you're an entrepreneur, you definitely gotta invest in yourself. So I definitely feel that. Okay, if you can only teach 3 things to the youth or to the world, what would it be?
Oh man, if I had 3 things. So first of all, we're going to teach that everybody has a right to exist, irrespective of anybody else's opinion about that. Next thing, we're going to teach, man, it's all about equity. In equity, man, we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity for success and access despite who they are. And I mean, in equity, that's different than equality. Equality, we treat everybody the same. And I've never been a proponent of that in schools, because if I treat my cat, dog, and fish the same, 2 of them are going to die. So I need to give people what they need. So if I have, so we got to be able to differentiate that instruction, differentiate our approach, and get people where they are. So equity would be number 2. Number 3, I would have to teach people, man, I don't know, I'll be silly on this one, man. I'm going to teach people that the Detroit Lions are not the worst team in the NFL, man. My team has gone out and lost quite a bit. People make jokes about the team, my city. But I'll tell you what, if you haven't seen every game, and you don't know. So here's what I tell people. It's not about losing. It's about how you lose. And I've watched my team go through 0-16, and the way you lose games, we've been competitive. We've stayed in the mix. We didn't get down and always fight. So that's why that's my team, man. Tried and true Lions Blue since before 1982. How about that?
I like you, my guy. I like you. I like the way you think, man. Okay, all right, man. Okay, what law would you like to make that every person should strictly follow?
A law that I would like to make that everyone would strictly follow: no discrimination. Right, we have that law, but it's not strictly followed. No discrimination based upon race, ability, religion, etc. Man, we have a law in this country called the Constitution. It's a nice piece of work. It's a nice piece of literature, even, man. But you have people that try to interpret it for their own means, which may be a thing that's okay to do. But when it's not followed, man, that bothers me. That keeps me going. So that's the law. No discrimination. Period.
Okay, I'm with you on that. I support you all the way, all the way. What words of advice would you offer to your younger self?
To my younger self, man, I would say, stay focused, man. Understand that you're on the right path. I would say to my younger self to, again, not listen to the noise. I think, honestly, man, I listen to all the advice I'm giving my younger self now. Someone gave me that advice, or I listened to it back then. So I would just repeat, man, do what you do, have faith in the steps you're making, and understand that not everybody is going to understand you.
I like that. I like that. Do you have any regrets? If so, what are they?
Any regrets? Oh, man. I've pondered that before, and I always come to the same conclusion that for me to have regrets would be for me to not accept the person that I am, because even if mistakes that I've made in life, mishaps I've made, judgments that I've made that didn't go well, they still all led to me being the person that I am today, which I happen to love. So I don't want to look at it as regrets. Our things could always have been done differently, and like I tell all my students, things could always be better. For sure, we always could be better, but they could always be worse. So I'll take it just like it is. You know what I mean?
Okay. I dig it. Dr. K, I appreciate you joining me this week here on the 1130 podcast. It was awesome time having you. Awesome time chopping it up with you, my guy, for real. Before you go, any shout outs, any questions, anything you'd like to say?
Hey, man, I just want to shout out to all my family in Detroit, and, my wife and kids here, and just for everybody else, man. If you are, I don't care if you're a teacher in schools or wherever, man, support the kids, man. Invest in the kids. That's what I'm doing with my nonprofit SCORE, securing communities of racial equity, providing information and opportunities. I appreciate if people can support. I'd like to see what I'm doing with this scholarship replicated across the country and around the world. So if folks are looking to get down with that and want to be a part of that, reach out to me through my websites, emails. I don't know if they'll be on your show, man, but they can reach me at info@score501c3.org. Score at 501c3@gmail.com, man. So I would just say, be good to yourselves, man. Be good to others, like my dad would say, and life will surely be good to you.
Hey, right about that. You have a social media where all my listeners or viewers can find you?
Well, man, so I have a few, man. So we have the Let's Chew the Gum podcast. So you can follow Let's Chew the Gum on Facebook. We have the SCORE, 501c3.org. That's the website for the nonprofit. We have the On Watch TV at onwatchtv.net, where you can go and find out information about the channel and get some behind the scenes. You can check out On Watch TV on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Check out also some things I did in the past, man. Instagrad 2020, that's with the D. A great program I did for students around the world. I'm still giving scholarships and helping folks out with that. And if nothing else, man, people can email me, my personal email. I give that out too. It's protocol, PROTKALL @gmail.com. So I'm all over the place with that, man, but they all serve a purpose, man. No matter what you do, reach out.
Hey, you got it. Your links will be down below. The podcast link, Let's Chew the Gum. I got to chat with you more about that. I definitely got to have you on again. I will be definitely listening in and checking you out, my guy. Thank you for coming on here on the show. No, man, it was awesome. It was really, really awesome. I love the way you think. The Alliance, man, they coming back.
Hey, that's what we hear every year, man. But I'm here for it.
Hey, look here. I like the Lions better than I like the Washington Commanders. I tell you that much.
Oh my goodness, man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. Crazy, man. Crazy. But this has been a fun show. This has been an amazing show. Dr. K, stick there, man. We're gonna chat a little bit afterwards. But you guys, man, I thank you guys for tuning in here to the 11:30 podcast this week. This has been an amazing show. Like I said, all the links will be down below. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you go check him out, message him, and do all that great stuff if you would like to have him on your podcast or just chat with him as well. But before I go, you guys, tune in this Friday for our new episode of the 11:30 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling, streaming on YouTube at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon. As we're going to be chatting all wrestling, you guys, with my guys, Blackheart and Warren Marlowe from Commission. And I don't know, Dr. K, if you're a wrestling fan or was a wrestling fan, but we're going to be chatting about The Undertaker going into the WWE Hall of Fame, your legendary character in the world of professional wrestling. So definitely tune in, you guys, this coming Friday. But man, you know what time it is. Don't forget to follow the 11:30 podcast on all social media platforms. Follow me on Twitter at the 11:30 podcast. Like the 11:30 podcast on Facebook. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the 11:30 podcast on YouTube. And also, you guys, man, don't forget to follow the 11:30 podcast on Instagram at the 11:30 podcast _. Once again, man, it's been a great show. Hope you guys, man, tune in this Friday. And see you guys next week here on EB Radio and YouTube. From Dr. K, from your man Dre, a.k.a. Dre on Wheels, man. Yo, stay blessed, stay safe. Give all the glory to God, man. Won't he do it? Yo, peace. And I'm out.